the One to Another podcast. My name is Joanne. Today we are going to talk about adjusting to a new life. When someone we love dies, we go through a divorce, we go through a major change, are overwhelmed with all that's going on. We have to take a look at how do we go through change. Things will be different now. Some of these things may be minor and some may be major. But we need to take a look at how we do adjust to new life. I read a poem recently that was written by Ben Franklin. It was written under his pen name. His pen name was Richard Saunders. So he took an idea from Humpty Dumpty. It said, "New and different sat on a wall. New and different had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men proceeded to put them together again, giving new a new tweak, starting different from seed. Doing the new and the different is how you succeed." So how about that? New and different. Well, sometimes we have to give it a tweak, and sometimes we have to figure out how we can start over. So while we have no choice about the fact of change, we do have some control over change itself. We think of grief as reacting and responding to the feelings that loss generates. That certainly is part of the grief process. But grief also involves learning to adapt and to adjust to a changed life. Our life may change in many ways, and we have to learn new skills as we adapt to the death of someone we love. I can remember helping a man as he was going through it. I had to teach him how to balance a checkbook. I also had to teach him how to do laundry, and I had to teach him how to cook. He did not know how to use his microwave. Well, most women probably need help in what to do when a car needs work done, or how do we do some repairs in our home when we don't know how to use a hammer and a nail. But, other changes may be subtle, coping with doing things alone that we once did with the other. I have learned that friendship networks may change. We may need to change where we live or work. I hope you don't do that change immediately. But sometimes, because of the financial situation, we have to take a look at that right away. We may have to take on additional responsibility due to the loss. We may give up activities that once were important but less significant now. When my late husband Dwayne died, we loved to play tennis, and we played a lot of tennis. And we had friends that we'd call and say, "Hey, you want to play tennis tonight?" And we had a tennis court not far from our home. But it was interesting to me that after he died, playing tennis was not so important to me anymore. It was something we'd done together, and so I had to make some changes and figure out some other ways that I could get my exercise instead of playing tennis. But we can manage these changes. The first is to be cautious of changing too much too quickly. In the time immediately after a loss, a major loss, we might not be thinking clearly, and that's true. Rapid change can add more stress at an already stressful time. Moreover, it can remove us from a significant source of support when we need that support the most. Some people have to move, and sometimes people want to move closer to their family. But if they move closer to their family, maybe they're going to lose their immediate set of friends. And so moving is a big change. It is little wonder that many counselors advise that when possible, we try to avoid significant changes for 6 months to a year after a major loss. Sometimes there are interim or partial solutions that can offer time for more serious consideration. For example, instead of choosing retirement, perhaps you should take a leave of absence and decide to retire or go back to work after a few months or a year. Since change is stressful, it's important to manage that stress. Good self-care is essential. It's wonderful if we can get adequate sleep, good nutrition, exercise to help us deal with the stress that we're experiencing. Good problem solving is important too. So we need to be proactive, assessing situations that might be difficult. Jackie, for example, was worried about the outdoor responsibilities after her husband died, so she hired a teenage neighbor to do the yard work and shovel snow. Now, at my house right now, I've had to make some pretty major changes since Ron, my husband, is now in hospice about what shall we do? Our fence is falling down. Shall we pay somebody to put up a new fence? How much is it going to cost? Who are we going to find? And so a lot of decisions that he and I would have made together, I now had to make alone, although I did talk to him about it and tried to get his input about what he thought we should do. And we finally hired a person who certainly had built fences but didn't own a fence company. And he gave us a bid and he stayed with the bid. And the fence turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful gift to our home and to our yard. So sometimes we have to sometimes we need to get someone to give us a suggestion of someone that we can contact. Beyond these general principles, each of us have to manage the transition to our new life our own way. So the question is, what do you want to take from your old life into your new life? Good question. Say it again. What do you want to take from your old life into your new life? Perhaps our memories that we want to retain, or even objects that remind us of the person. Maybe we want to recapture the joy and confidence we had. Or perhaps there are relationships we want to preserve. When I was thinking about memories that I wanted to retain, I thought about, as I was talking about tennis, I wanted to keep his tennis racket because, I watched him play with that tennis racket. I played with him while he was using it. So you know what? When I said goodbye to that relationship that could no longer exist, I kept the tennis racket. And you know what? I've still kept it, and I'm going to keep it until I die, and then somebody else is going to have to decide what they want to do with it. But maybe there's some friends in our life that we want to keep. I think it's important for us to think about, again, what do you want to take from your old life into your new life? The next question is, what do you want to leave behind? As we adapt to a new life, there may be pieces we do not wish to bring, maybe feelings of anger or guilt. Perhaps there's memories or images that we have to explore and release. Need to say goodbye to places that are very painful, and we have to let them go. There may be relationships that no longer seem significant, meaningful, or constructive. And in a good, kind way, we need to learn how to let go and say goodbye and realize that that's no longer something that we do not need to have in our life, and we want to leave it behind. Or what do you need to add? As we move into a new life, we may need to develop different skills, as we may need to develop new relationships, new interests, or support. But we do have choices. But ultimately, the choice we have to decide is we will survive and perhaps even thrive into our new place. And so how do we begin to do all this? Sometimes I think that it's most important to develop a good sense of humor. And sometimes we have to start laughing at yourself. And we have to realize that life isn't always so tense. I have found, and I was doing some writing recently, as Ron and I are walking through transition, I've said that I think it's important to laugh and to cry. And laugh, as people who laugh readily heal faster. Laughter doesn't require a PhD or six-figure salary. It's a free God-given gift. Perhaps he knew we would need it. So in our lives right now, Ron has kidney failure, so he has a catheter, and so it has to be emptied several times a day. And it was about 1:30 in the morning, and he called me and said he felt like the catheter needed to be emptied, and I was pretty tired. And we also have a kind of a lime green glass. It's a thermal glass, but it's lime green that I put apple juice in with ice that he has next to his it's on a TV tray. Well, that was empty. So he also said, well, I also need you, if it's possible, to have some more apple juice. So here I am down, kneeling, emptying his catheter. And then that's when he said, well, I really need to have some apple juice. And I looked up at him and I said, well, you know what, Ron? I think what I'll do is I'll just empty your catheter into your apple juice container and see if we can just recycle. And he looked at me. He looked at me with this absolutely, I cannot believe you said this look. And then he started laughing. And I started laughing. And we had one of the best laughs that we've had in a long time. He said, you know what? There's sometimes when things that are so mundane, you have to look at it from a different way. But he says, I want to know something. You really wouldn't do that, would you? I said, no. But at that moment, when you're really tired, you have to think of something funny or you got to just change the atmosphere. I said, of course not. I'd never do that. But it was just a moment of laughter. And I think I cried so hard I started to cry. And that was, you just laughed so hard you cried. But I went, emptied his catheter, went, got him some apple juice. And he said, thank you so much for taking care of me, even in the middle of the night. So you know what? Doesn't matter when it is. Sometimes we have to laugh and sometimes we have to cry. And laughter lifts, crying cleanses. Both are partners in the process of emotional healing. So I don't know what's going on in your life and what you're doing to go through your transition, but you got to start laughing, and sometimes you have to laugh at yourself. And maybe paint a verbal and written picture of where you want to go. How are you going to do this? Well, for me, it would be show a picture of feet, taking one step at a time, moving forward. And, sometimes we just have to realize it takes 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, but it's okay. And I find that what we have to do is let go and trust what's ahead. And I found, too, that keeping things simple, hey, we can enjoy the adventure, and it's important that we stay in touch with those around us who will give us encouragement. So what do we need to add? Well, we have choices, but it's important to find some people, even if it's your wonderful husband, whatever it is, to survive, to find some encouragement, have a good laugh, and believe that you can thrive and make some new steps wherever it is that you choose to go in your journey. So I want to remind you that it does help in change to maybe take some small lifestyle changes. And so one of them is take the stairs instead of the elevator. Maybe get a therapeutic massage. Maybe try a new gym class. Maybe break the bedtime TV habit. Turn off everything. Maybe have an extra glass of water every day for a week. Cut back on coffee or soda. How about watch a sunset? Maybe limit your sugar intake. Go out and help someone that's good for you. Or how about going to bed an hour earlier? Take up knitting, quit smoking, most of all, forgive people. It is important that we do not carry a lot of grudges. We live each day, forgive, forget, and go on. Yep, we're all going to go through changes. And as we go through them, guess what? My questions again are this. What do you want to take from your old life into your new life? What do you want to leave behind? And what do you need to add? We have choices. We will choose, if we want to survive and thrive. What one step are you going to take to move forward in your healing?